You are so welcome to this seriously good news video. Now, I had wrongly predicted that the Oxford vaccine would be approved for clinical use in the UK by the 29th of December. That was wrong. It wasn't approved till this morning, Wednesday the 30th of December. And this is absolutely game-changing news. We now have a vaccine with high levels of efficacy, high levels of safety, easy to produce, easy to transport, and very, very inexpensive. We're looking at about €3, round about $3 per dose. Excellent news. So let's dive straight into the actually I'll give you a bit of these are sort of bottom line details first of all, and then we'll look at a little more detail. So cases in the UK are going up. We could have looked at the 1,000 deaths in Germany. Things aren't good at the moment, but this is the good news now. So this is the Oxford vaccine here, based on a chimpanzee adenovirus vector that carries it into the body via the injection, which is great. Now, in 3 weeks, this will give a good level of immunity. So you have the first shot, of the vaccine, and 3 weeks later, you've got a good level of immunity. Maybe 70 or 80% after the first 3 or 4 weeks, you have that high level of immunity. But the key thing is, in the trials, they found out that people, about 3 weeks after the first vaccine, the first dose, stopped getting admitted to hospital. These patients are not getting as sick. So personally, I don't mind getting a little bit sick, but I don't want to be so sick I feel terrible and have to be hospitalised, and I certainly don't want to die. So it looks like it's protecting us against that. So given that we've got limited amounts of the vaccine just now, it makes sense to give lots of people the first dose of the vaccine, stop people being admitted to hospital, and then we can carry on and give the second dose later. And that's exactly what we're doing now in the UK. This is exactly what is happening, and it makes perfect sense. So 3 weeks after the first shot for a good level of immunity. And after this in the trial, people were not hospitalised. I mean, this is just simply wonderful news. Now, we don't have the full trial data, so we don't know if it was 0% were hospitalised, as it was in the phase 3 clinical trial after people had had 2 shots. It was no one was hospitalised. So we don't know that yet, but what we believe is that people basically are not getting sick just after the first dose. This is really more than we'd hope for. So 1 dose can prevent serious illness. And then 22 days to 3 months after the first shot, it's 70 to 80% effectiveness. And that is with only 1 injection. Now, the second injection will be required to give a fuller level of immunity and also to make the immunity last for longer. How long, we don't really know. I suspect it's going to be several years, if not longer, but we don't know that for sure yet. But what we need to do is get over this emergency, and this is really what it's going to help us to do. 3 billion doses being produced in the first year in 2021. 30 supply agreements with partners and networks around the world. In other words, what this means is 30 different manufacturers around the world are going to be producing this vaccine because it uses tried and trusted methods of vaccine production that many other pharmaceutical companies can be licensed and are being licensed and have been licensed to produce. And we'll be looking at a list of where it's going to be produced shortly, and basically it's everywhere. It's Europe, it's the United States, it's Asia. It's really good news on that front. So Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency, MHRA, these are the lot that have just approved it, has approved two full doses of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, in the clinical trials, it looked like giving a lower dose first, followed by a higher dose, had higher levels of efficacy. But the MHRA felt they didn't have enough data to approve that, so they've gone with the 2 full doses. They've got the full data. Not only have they got the full data, they've got the full data on a completely rolling schedule. So they've got way more data than is in the public domain, so they are the best place to make this decision. So they said not enough clear data to approve the half-dose, full-dose idea yet, but that may come. Because remember, now this has been approved and the mass rollout starts on the 4th of January. What this is actually, on Monday the 4th of January, is the beginning of the phase 4 clinical trial. So the data will still be collected, it will still be fed back to the HMRA, and they'll be able to make more informed decisions. So data still being collected. All the stages that would normally be gone through for approval have been done. It's just that the HMRA anticipated this. This has all been done so quickly via anticipation. Oxford University for years have been anticipating a pandemic. They didn't know what it was, but they had this chimpanzee adenovirus vector ready for the next pandemic. And they had experience of it from Zika and from previous infections, Ebola, previous infections. So they kind of hit the ground running. And HMRA has done the same. They've been collecting the data on an ongoing basis. Now, the onus really now is on the FDA in the United States to approve this. Because in Colorado, I think it was, there's already been one of this new, more transmissible variants that we did yesterday's video about has already been confirmed in Colorado. And that's not the only one. It's just the first one that's been found. So the FDA really needs to get going on this as well. Then the Oxford vaccine can be added to the Pfizer and the Moderna. And the European Medicines Agency really needs to get its act together on this as well, because Europe, 1,000 deaths yesterday in Germany. This is just not acceptable. They need to get their act together. Now, just before we go on with the Oxford vaccine, I'm just going to give a quick parenthesis. I've just put it in different text about the Pfizer vaccine, just a bit of new news on the Pfizer vaccine. They're saying 21 days is the minimum gap. So they're quite happy for people to get the second dose of the vaccine. They don't really say, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks later seems to be absolutely fine. And of course, this will mean that more people can receive their first dose as well, because we're in an emergency situation, and that will make the supplies last longer. And they're now saying doctors can decide to give pregnant women and breastfeeding the vaccine on individual clinical discretion. And people with allergies can also be considered, again, on individual personal discretion of the clinicians involved. But anyway, getting back to the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, the main news of the day. And remember, this is Oxford-AstraZeneca team have agreed to give this out profit-free for the course of the pandemic, $3 a shot. It's just incredible. It really is the most generous gestures. Well, no more gestures. It's world changing. Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, part of the UK government, working with HMRA, of course. They say give as many people as possible their first dose of the vaccine. Good idea. Stops them getting sick. Stops them getting hospitalised. Give as many vulnerable people some protection from COVID-19 as possible. Absolutely. And the second dose can be between 4 to 12 weeks later. Now, we did suspect this. We actually talked about this on this video just a few days ago when we looked at the phase 2 clinical trials published by the peer-reviewed publication now, as are the phase 3 clinical trials, all in peer-reviewed publication. We did look at this, and we found out that the longer the gap did seem to improve the efficacy of the vaccine. So it makes sense that they've now lengthened this gap, and this is kind of the winning formula. So what they've done here is really quite an impressive piece of analysis. It's a very impressive piece of analysis, actually, by the HMRA and the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisations, in combination with Pfizer and Oxford. They've looked at the 2 different doses of the vaccine, and they've looked at the different schedules of the timing, the different schedules of the gaps between the vaccines, and they've optimised it. So it's quite a slick piece of work that's been done here. Second dose can be given up to 12 weeks later, give a longer term protection. Now, this vaccine, according to data we looked at yesterday, will work. We're sure it will work. Well, at least we're very confident it will work against the new strain of the virus, the 2012 strain, because it's only about 1% difference in its protein makeup from the previous strain. But the scientists at Oxford are already working on flexibility so they can adapt their vaccine to be efficacious against new mutants should they arise. Not necessary yet, but that flexibility is already being worked on. So again, anticipation, well ahead of the game, exactly the right thing to do. So all very proactive. Now, I think we'll look at this in a little more detail now. The Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, so now approved, fast-track rolling review of the vaccine. They've been looking at it for a while. Even before November, they've been looking at the data. Enters stage 4 on approval. So basically that's going to start when we start giving it out on the 4th of January. Now, the other reason, as you can probably tell, I'm a bit pleased today, the pre-orders for this vaccine. This can be produced in huge amounts by partners all around the world. It's not as restricted by the cold technology as the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines are. I mean, you know, I've vaccinated people in difficult situations, and you literally go out in the morning with a cold box. You put some, you know, just like you go on a picnic with, and you put the ice blocks in the cold box, and you put your vaccines there, and that does you all day. Well, this is the same with the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. It will last all day quite easily, and stored in the fridge at about, well, normally 2 to 6 degrees centigrade, we say 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. We try and keep the fridges at about 4 degrees centigrade. It'll last for 6 months. 6 months. You know, how easy is that to ship around the world? You know, shipping things around the world at 4 degrees centigrade is not a big problem. We can do that for sure. Now, good news, pre-orders. European Union have got 400 million doses on order. 400 million. Of course, this depends on the European Medicines Agency getting its act together. It was very slow on the Pfizer one. It's not yet approved the Moderna one. Let's hope they get their act together on this, because the need in Europe is incredible. You know, they really need to get their act together on this and not be as slow as they were with the Pfizer one. Let's hope they can co-opt any scientist they want from Europe. You know, just realise the power they have and get this done. You know, if they want a statistician unit from any particular university, I'm sure they'll jump to it. Let's just get on with it. 400 million doses once it's approved by the European Medicines Agency for the European Union. UK 100 million. So the combination of this and the Pfizer is enough to vaccinate the population of the UK. The United States, not a lot of people realise this, the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, the United States have pre-ordered 300 million doses. China, on an interesting comment perhaps on its own vaccine, have ordered 200 million. Japan 120 million, Brazil 100 million, Mexico 77 million, Chile, Indonesia, Australia, Egypt, Argentina, Ecuador, Canada. This is going all around the world, and they're just the ones I could get definite numbers on. There are others as well. And it's going to be regionally produced. So, for example, Argentina and Mexico are going to produce for Latin America and ship it all around to Latin America. Easy to ship it around at 4 degrees centigrade. Vaccine Alliance for poorer countries, 300 million doses. It's only a start, but it's a start. And the WHO-sponsored COVAX program, 170 million doses have been promised, 3 billion doses in 2021. And for example, Southeast Asia is going to be produced in Thailand, shipped around Southeast Asia. Cost. Wow. £2 This is $3 per dose. Means you can vaccinate someone for a total of $6 US, 4 English pounds, British pounds, 4 British pounds, and you've potentially saved a life. This has got to be the best bargain of the century. Lasts for 6 months when refrigerated. Fine. So efficacy. Pascal Sora, he was the managing director of Pfizer. He said they found the winning formula. We now know what he means. It's the combination of the higher dose with a longer gap in between. So we were looking at 62%. Now we're looking with the first dose at 70 to 80% is the latest data for the first dose. But we're hoping that that is 100% effective in keeping people out of hospital. So you could well say that the efficacy is looking like it's 100%. We don't know that figure yet, but we know it's high. And we also know there's a strong response in older adults. So this is great. I think we should just say that this is not going to have massive herd immunity effects for some months, because we're going to be giving out a million doses a week to start off with in the UK. So it's going to take time. Until then, of course, goes without saying really, all these precautions still need to be taken. Do not let your guard down one little bit. In fact, the UK is going into Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales are already in high tiers, and England's going into much higher tier. Many more people in England will be going into higher tier restrictions today when the Prime Minister announces this at 3 o'clock this afternoon in Parliament. That's inevitable. So we are not there yet, but this is the way out. This really is the beginning of the end. It's going to be made in the United Kingdom. It's going to be made in Belgium. Huge amounts have already been made in the Serum Institute in Pune in India. They're going to bash out 1 billion doses in the next year at least. It's being produced in Melbourne, Australia. Thailand for distribution to Southeast Asia. It's being produced in Netherlands and Germany, various other places across Europe. Italy, for example, for sure, that I know of for sure. It's being produced in, get this one, it's being produced in China. So AstraZeneca have struck deals with, at least I guess they've struck deals with China. I guess that's the way it's worked. Shenzhen being produced in the United States. I'm not exactly sure where. I'm pretty sure it's Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm pretty sure it's Maryland. But I think several places in the US. And get this, Russia, Mexico and Argentina. So it's literally being produced all round the world. It's not that you're kind of waiting for supplies coming from some mega factory in Scotland or somewhere like that. It's local production using existing vaccine production technologies in agreement with Oxford-AstraZeneca. And AstraZeneca, as I've stressed, have agreed not to take any profit for the duration of the pandemic. I mean, I'm not knocking Pfizer and Moderna, but they're both making a lot of money out of this. And when I say a lot of money, I don't mean a little bit of money. To me, it would be a lot of money, and I suspect to you as well. In international terms, it's a lot of money. Whereas Oxford-AstraZeneca have agreed not to make any profit for the duration of the pandemic. Now, UK, 4 million doses ready to go, and we've got 15 million doses made already, just waiting to be bottled, put into the vials. So 4 million vials ready to ship. We're off enough for the next 4 weeks, although hopefully they'll accelerate it. 15 million produced and ready to be put into vials, and more production, of course, planned. Mass rollout starts the 4th of January, 1 million per week. Not a simple matter, but the logistics are largely in place and are still being developed. Now, mass rollout, no screening is required. Now, I'm always being asked this question. The question is, if someone's already had the disease, then they've got antibodies, and then they're vaccinated, what happens? Well, the point with this is that the people that were in the trials weren't screened to see if they'd had it already. They don't need to be. Actually, I'm not sure about the trials whether they were screened or not, but I think most of them weren't. But it's certainly true that they've stated that it's important that no screening is required. So we don't really care. So when people come for vaccine, it doesn't matter whether they've had the disease or not. Now, if they've already had the disease, they may not need vaccinated, but the point is it won't do them any harm, or their risk of harm is the same as anyone else, which is minimal. So reactogenicity does not appear to be affected by the presence of antibodies to coronavirus. Now, reactogenicity is how likely it is someone has a reaction to the injection. So it wouldn't be surprising if when you have the injection, you get a sore arm. You might feel a little bit off for the next day. I don't know. But, the sore arm bit is probably the one that annoys most people. But if people have already had SARS coronavirus 2 infection, they don't get more severe reactions than people that haven't. So that's the answer to that. If someone has already had SARS coronavirus 2 infection, they can still have this vaccine and it will just boost their immune system further. So glad that they've answered that question specifically. We don't have to guess anymore. I think the United States are going to have to get its act together on this, because Mr. Biden wants 100 million doses of vaccine in his first 100 days in office. And given that with the Oxford vaccine we could just give one dose, this is achievable. This is achievable and would transform or start to transform the situation in the United States. I won't go on too much longer. I think I'll just tell you one set of things. You can look these up yourself. Evidence base. So this is based on peer-reviewed publications that we know about and a lot of other evidence that the regulatory authorities know about that we don't. That was the original press release. This is the Oxford vaccine home site for you to check out for yourself. This is the Oxford coronavirus site. That's that one there. And this is the Jenner Institute, which works in collaboration. Also lots of good information on that as well. Now, I was going to give you a lot of details about how this vaccine works. I think we'll leave that for the next one. The main thing is, at the moment, millions of people are going to get this vaccine in the next month or two, and after they've had the first shot, I don't expect them to be hospitalised, and that is marvellous. India will be approving this vaccine within days. Within days. I wish the European Medicines Agency and the FDA would do the same. I really do, but I don't have a timetable for them. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later. And let's also hope, because the regulatory procedures in the United Kingdom have been so thorough, you would think that if the FDA and the European Medicines Agency picked up the phone and started talking to the UK regulators, they might be able to save themselves a bit of time, because at the moment quite a lot of people are dying. So this really is an emergency situation. For most of us, what it means is after Easter, by early summertime, in Europe, as long as the Europeans get their act together, the European Medicines Agency, in the United States, in the UK, life will be starting to get back to normal. We are going to need all the precautions until we're told we don't need them for the time being. The challenge is going to be getting this out to everyone in the world, because although things are going to get dramatically better with this vaccine, dramatically better, way better, the ultimate analysis is it's not over for anyone till it's over for everyone. So we have that moral obligation to ourselves and to every other human being to get it out there. So great news. Do enjoy this news. Do celebrate this news in a socially isolated way. But do not let this news affect your behaviour for some months yet. Thank you for watching, of course.